This is, don't get caught up in the colors, right? Don't get caught up in the shells. Don't get caught up in the red, the greens, the blues, the impulsivity, the depressive spirals, the anxiety, all that other stuff. We have to get to core content. And this is also true of clients who don't have personality disorders, but it is most effective with individuals with personality disorders because of the defense mechanisms that are in place that make it really challenging to get down deep into it and deal with those core issues. So the foundational strategies, right, for long-term change. First and foremost, as I already mentioned when I was talking to Jacqueline the other day, don't believe the hype. Please don't. We're talking about that upper 3%. Don't believe that every narcissist, right? Which, by the way, when we get to narcissism, we'll talk about that, about how it's become more colloquial usage than clinical usage. And that's a huge problem for us in our field. And I'll explain why a little later. But we can't get focused on the upper 3%. We can't get focused on the upper 3% of narcissists, antisocials, right? Or borderlines. Now, first, let me just clarify. When I say borderlines and antisocials and narcissists, I never define my clients by the diagnoses that they have, right? They're more than their diagnoses. But when we're talking, it's kind of easier for me to say that because it can be really tiring to say and to hear. Well, the individual along the narcissistic spectrum. Well, the individual along the antisocial. So you get what I'm saying. So just bear that in mind so that I'm not defining my clients by their pathology. I make an absolute point not to do that. Okay, so we got to keep a lookout, right? Don't get distracted by the upper 3%. And the problem is, if we only conceptualize the extremes, and this is for your antisocial folks, you got your your Ted Bundys, right? You have your Enrons, you got your Hannibal Lecters. That doesn't encapsulate all individuals with antisocial personality disorder, which we're going to talk about today. How about narcissistic personality disorder? Your Napoleons, your Don Drapers, your Kanye Wests. Those are extreme cases. What about borderline? Brandon Marshall, he used to play for the Bears. Vincent Van Gogh, or Alex from Fatal Attraction. Okay, so these are those 3%, that upper 3%. If you haven't seen Fatal Attraction, once you know that she is an upper 3% or presentation of the upper 3% of BPD, you really see it. I mean, you see all of that presentation and oh my God, it's just amazing. So, and I know that it was mentioned just a moment ago. So in the presentation that I'm going to do, go through all 10 personality disorders for that certification course. We're going to show clips and we're going to do we're going to do such a deep dive into all this stuff. It's going to be really cool. I'm super excited because I love it. And I love doing this because this is so important for us to recognize that that's only 3%. Well, what about the 97%? Those are likely the people that are sitting across from me. If you work in inpatient facilities, if you work in prisons, particularly a maximum security prison, you are likely to see these extremes more often. Outside of that, you're really not, right? It's exceptionally rare. They usually don't function too well in society, so to speak, so they end up typically getting arrested, or because there's access to so much drugs and alcohol and weapons and things like that, they tend, this is in no way a flippant statement, not at all, but they tend to die very early, okay? Whether it's suicide or they are assaulted and killed. So hope and expectations of improvement. Now here, you got to be careful. You got to watch out for that confirmation bias. And this is our problem, right? We got to be paying attention to this stuff, which means that we only listen for stuff that validates our perspectives. And these are some common ones, which is that all borderlines, right, are a lot of work and they don't want help. Actually, the research shows the exact opposite of that, which is that BPD is the most successfully treated personality disorder and they're treatment seeking. So if they're treatment seeking and they're the most successfully treated, why does our field have such a problem treating them? I think because in many cases we don't do it right, right? That may sound a little snooty to say, but I think because we spend so much time on surface, we we don't see what's really going on. And I think we need to focus on that. Anyway, all narcissists are show-offs and untreatable. Absolutely not, right? Because you've got overt and covert narcissists. And we miss those covert narcissists, and a lot of therapists fall for the trap of and from the covert narcissists. We'll talk about that later too. All antisocials are psychopaths. Absolutely, positively not true. In my 21 years, right, in the federal prison system and then working in state penitentiaries before that, I have only seen one genuine psychopath. I worked with our forensic psychologist, and she, I think, was 15 years. Now, they're really more likely to see psychopathy more often than, let's say, the type of psychologist I was, which is a staff psychologist. So I kind of did everything. And she has a specialty area of forensics. And she said she's probably seen about 5 or 8. But think about that. Forensic psychologist of 10 plus years, and she's seen what, 10 to 15, something like that. I mean, it's just not that common. But we are led to believe that it is, and it's not. So there's the availability heuristic, and there's a confirmation bias. So we got to be careful. We got to fight that. It's such a huge tendency with us, and we got to be really careful.